Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India NewsHour, India's voice to the world. I'm Mark Lynn. Namaskar. Coming up in the next hour. France on the brink. Macron under fire as the 14-hour cabinet of Prime Minister Lecornu collapses, sparking calls for fresh elections and his resignation. US shutdown enters the second week. Budget deadlock deepens as Trump blames Democrats. The unions are fighting the layoff threats. UPI expands global footprint. Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal launches digital payments in Qatar, showcases India's fintech model. Brunkow, Ramsdell and Sakaguchi win the Nobel Prize for a breakthrough in immune system regulation. A political storm is brewing in France. With around 18 months left in his presidency, Emmanuel Macron finds himself cornered by collapsing cabinets, rising protests and a parliament in disarray. This is the story of a government that lasted less than a day and a president fighting to hold the republic together. Here's the report. With around 18 months left in his second term, French President Emmanuel Macron enters the toughest phase of his presidency: waning influence, rising opposition and political chaos. The French government collapsed in just 14 hours. Prime Minister Sébastien Lecornu unveiled his cabinet on Sunday, and by Monday morning he had resigned. One of the shortest-lived governments in French history.
This Monday morning, the conditions were no longer in place for me to carry out the duties of Prime Minister and allow the government to appear before the National Assembly tomorrow. The composition of the government was not smooth and awakened some partisan appetites, sometimes quite legitimately linked to the upcoming presidential election.
France's National Assembly is deeply divided after Macron lost his majority in 2024. The new cabinet had angered both allies and opponents. Allies saying it leaned too far right and opponents saying not far enough. Parties were ready to topple the government before it even met. Markets reacted and stocks fell. The euro dipped.
I think that now we'll have to return to the votes of the French people. That is to say, we will have to either go through a dissolution of parliament or perhaps even the resignation of the president. We cannot continue like this, and that at some point a new majority will have to emerge to be able to have a stable government and resolve the problems that France is experiencing today.
Lecornu was Macron's fifth prime minister in 2 years. Austerity, pension reforms and budget cuts have sparked backlash. Repeated collapses have become the norm. Now both the far-right National Rally and far-left France Unbowed demand snap elections, with some even calling for Macron's impeachment. Macron has been resisting calls to dissolve parliament. His other options are appointing a technocratic prime minister and creating a coalition government. But people's unrest is growing. On October 2, there were widespread protests. Unions now plan a nationwide strike on October 13.
The great achievement of Macronism is that it has succeeded in pitting the poor against the poor.
On the economic front, France's debt crisis is deepening. Macron is walking a tightrope, trying to hold his presidency together while the country pulls in every direction. Bureau Report, DD India. Manjeev Singh Puri, former senior diplomat and former ambassador of India, joins us to to demystify the story for us. Ambassador Puri, are we seeing structural weaknesses in France's presidential system that have basically contributed to repeated government collapses under Macron's leadership?
Mark, that's an excellent question, and rightly put from the perspective of a country like India, which is a parliamentary democracy. Now, France, under its current constitution, has a very powerful, directly elected president. In a sense, to help him function, there is a situation by which a prime minister is appointed and a national assembly must ratify, i.e. pass the budgets, etc. So, in some senses, this is a methodology in which a degree of stability is there in a nationally elected president, and on the other hand, there has to be a degree of what is called cohabitation, a French word, especially when all the parties in the National Assembly, the majority is not held by the same political party as President Macron. Now, what happened was that in 2024, during the European Parliament's elections, the centrist coalition of President Macron didn't do well.
Right.
And he thought that, the best way was to dissolve the National Assembly, call for French elections, and in a sense, call out the right-wing Marine Le Pen. But actually what happened was that in the initial, there are 2 rounds of elections. In the first round, Marine Le Pen did pretty well. Now to counter her, in the second round, the centrists and the leftists got together. She wasn't able to do as well. And in a sense that allowed President Macron to once again nominate someone as the prime minister. It lasted about 8 months. It fell again, then again another prime minister, and now the third one, somebody who's a great loyalist. Now this is of course showing you that his sort of centrist approach, there is a limited amount of political space for it. Indeed. What are the answers? That's what we are looking at, because France is a very major economy. It's a very major country, a member of the P5. And of course, more than a modicum of stability is there in the president, who remains and who has said very clearly he's not going anywhere till his term expires in 2027, no matter the fact that some people on the street are calling him to leave.
Right, true. But Macron's pension changes, austerity measures, they've triggered that political backlash. You talked about the street. Do you see them, Macron, do you see that these reforms he took as necessary, or can he just, go with what the people want?
So, Mark, look, economists would say that these were necessary because the French economy wasn't doing too well. The debt to GDP ratio, which is, I'm told, somewhere well above 100% right now, was certainly a very big problem. He had to take it. So, several of these kind of measures are not populist. They are measures which is a kind of bitter pill and a better medicine. Right. And, it's not easy to swallow. He's having to pay the price for it. But, he's actually having to pay the price for having taken a risky political step in 2024, dissolving the National Assembly and thinking that he could somehow manage things. It hasn't happened. What are realistically the options? Yes. I don't want to talk about him leaving the office. Let's leave that out. One is appoint another one. The constitution allows him to do so. And let's see if that person can do something. Lecornu did something which should not have been done, which he literally produced the same people in his cabinet who were there in the cabinet of the outgoing prime minister.
Right.
And so therefore, what is it that the other political parties have to gain? Can there be someone who is a little bit more savvy and says, look, guys, I don't have the majority. Do I placate you somehow or the other? We have to wait and watch. Seems a little unlikely. Then
what about the options, Ambassador Puri, what about the options of appointing like a technocrat who's maybe non-political, and then see whether, the parties that can form a coalition government can form a coalition government around that?
So, Mark, that's exactly what he did in the first instance. Michel Barnier, who has been an EU commissioner, this, that, and the other, was appointed. He lasted 8 months. Because, at the end of the day, there are political ideologies on the left and the right, which are not very easy to reconcile. And the centrists have been trying to play both sides. When Michel Barnier was appointed, people said that what Macron had done, and it was important to do at that time for a budget, was to appoint someone who was slightly right of center and so therefore have Marine Le Pen and the right wing support him. But it all fell off very soon. So you can play these sharp politics, you can try to do it, but in the longer run, at least with this composition of the National Assembly, seems difficult. What are his choices? Would he appoint another one? Try with a slightly different cabinet? Maybe, because the choices rest with him. Or call fresh election for the National Assembly. Will they go in his favor? Very unlikely.
Indeed. So if he does call snap elections, as people are asking, and if it doesn't go his way, even these calls for impeachment that are coming in, do you see this reshaping the narrative for the 2027 presidential race?
Absolutely. And, you would recall that the person you interviewed also said this. It is setting the race. Look, Macron does not have any great political party. In fact, he won by playing a good centrist card against Marine Le Pen by gathering the leftists to come behind him and say, look, you don't want the right wing, isn't it? So pony up for me. And this is exactly what he did. They have an election which has a two-step process. If in the first press nobody crosses the 50% mark, then the top two go in for a runoff. That's exactly what he did. He was successful. But the limits of what you can do without really having a strong political party at your back is something which is seriously being exposed today in France. But of course, the constitution makes the French president a very powerful presidency.
We leave it there. Thank you very much, Ambassador Manjeev Puri, as former senior diplomat, former ambassador of India. Thank you for putting that into perspective for us. Still to come here on DD India News Hour. Israel-Hamas talks begin in Egypt as war anniversary nears, raising hopes for peace. Ginny Cooper, the British author of novels such as Rivals and Riders, dies at the age of 88. Monsoon retreat brings tragedy in Nepal, but snowfall lures tourists to Kashmir. Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the Economic Brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Mark Lynn. India and Qatar have taken significant steps to deepen economic ties with high-level talks held in Doha on trade and investment. The Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal, leading a business delegation, co-chaired the India-Qatar Joint Commission meeting, and a major highlight of the visit was the launch of UPI services in Qatar, marking India's digital outreach abroad. Here's the report.
India and Qatar on Monday discussed ways to increase bilateral trade and investments between the two countries. Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal, who is on a two-day visit to Doha, held deliberations with Sheikh Faisal bin Thani bin Faisal Al Thani, the Minister of Commerce and Industry of Qatar. The minister is leading a business delegation to discuss investment opportunities between the two countries. The visit comes at a time when both countries are looking at negotiating a free trade agreement. Goyal chaired a meeting with Qatari and Indian private sector leaders on Monday.
Discussed that we should quickly launch FTA negotiations. We are discussing the contours of the terms of reference, and once we have finalized that, Honorable Minister of Qatar and I have discussed that we will fast track it so that trade and business can double by 2030.
Indian private sector representatives expressed strong support for enhancing trade relations between India and Qatar and welcomed high-level engagement with Qatari business partners.
कतर has created world class infrastructure. यहाँ पे जैसा पोर्ट है, नंबर 1 एयरपोर्ट इन द वर्ल्ड, हमारे यहाँ पे फ्री मार्केट है और इंडियन कंपनीज आर आल्सो वेलकम हियर. इंडिया इज द फास्टेस्ट ग्रोइंग इकोनॉमी इन द वर्ल्ड और कतर इंडिया का सिनर्जी भी बहुत अच्छा है. तो ये ट्रेडिशनल ट्रांसैक्शनल बिजनेस से आगे उसको बढ़ाना चाहता है दोनों देश.
One of the key highlights of day one of the visit was the launch of UPI transactions in Qatar. Minister Goyal inaugurated the service at Lulu Mall in Doha. India's digital payment platform, Unified Payments Interface or UPI, offers a model for other countries to learn from and potentially adopt to modernize their own payment systems.
I'm very delighted at the opportunity to launch UPI and UPI transactions, which is not just a technology solution, not just a digital payment solution, but has the potential to revolutionize trade between Qatar and India. Our people of Qatar and India will be able to trade more, trade smarter, at lower cost. The movement of money and capital will be faster.
Accompanied by senior officials, Minister Goyal co-chaired the India-Qatar Ministerial Joint Commission on Economic and Commercial Cooperation with his Qatari counterpart Sheikh Faisal bin Thani Al Thani and addressed the inaugural meeting of the India-Qatar Joint Business Council. Qatar is an important trading partner of India in the Gulf Cooperation Council with bilateral trade over $14.15 billion in 2024-25. GCC members are Bahrain, Kuwait, Oman, Qatar, Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates. India's exports to Qatar totaled $1.68 billion while imports surged to $12.46 billion, producing a substantial trade deficit of $10.78 billion in the last fiscal. This meeting follows the first joint working group session held in July 2024 and builds on the momentum from the Amir of Qatar's visit to India in February 2025, where both sides agreed to upgrade the working group to a joint commission led by their commerce ministers. Ravindra Chauhan's report for DD India.
Well, India's Defence Secretary Rajesh Kumar Singh is on a visit to the Maldives. Now, the Defence Secretary called on the Maldives Defence Minister Mohammed Ghassan Maymoon. This happened in Malé on Monday. The two sides, they explored new avenues to further strengthen the existing bilateral defence cooperation between the nations and reiterated the commitment to shared peace, stability and security in the Indian Ocean region. During his ongoing two-day official visit, the Defence Secretary Rajesh Singh also called on Major General Ibrahim Hilmi, who is the Chief of Defence Forces in Maldives. The two dignitaries held discussions aimed at deepening bilateral defence cooperation and diversifying the India-Maldives defence partnership. Israeli and Hamas officials launched indirect talks on Monday in Cairo on the eve of the second anniversary of the October 7 attack. The discussions, they aimed at implementing President Trump's proposed peace plan for Gaza. The discussions follow Hamas's partial acceptance last week of Trump's 20-point proposal, which includes the release of Israeli hostages. The Israeli delegation is led by top negotiator Ron Dermer, while Khalil al-Hayya heads the Hamas team. The U.S. Middle East envoy Steve Witkoff and President Donald Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner are also expected to join the talks. The negotiations are expected to last a few days, with mediators from the US, Qatar and Egypt also present. Earlier, President Donald Trump struck an optimistic note, saying that he and several countries surrounding Israel had very good meetings with Hamas.
Very quickly, we had some very good meetings. The countries of the world, a lot of the countries surrounding Israel, frankly, Muslim, Arab, and many others have had great meetings with Hamas, and it looks like it's working. So we'll wait for a little while, see how it all turns out.
The German Chancellor Friedrich Merz held a phone conversation with Israel's President Isaac Herzog on Monday. He expressed hope that an agreement on the release of hostages and a ceasefire in Gaza could be reached within the next few days. Meanwhile, Israelis hope for a deal to secure the release of hostages and an end to the war in Gaza.
We're very exhausted for all of us. We had such a long time that the people here at war going to reserve duty, and all the missile attacks that we have here. It's really was exhausted.
For me, I certainly was someone who I cried every single hostage release that we've had until now, and I think that this will finally be an end to a very dark chapter in our country's history.
The latest push for peace comes after Hamas accepted key elements of the U.S. plan, which Israel has also endorsed under the proposal, and Hamas would release the remaining 48 hostages. The Trump administration's officials, they've issued a warning on Sunday that Americans will increasingly feel the pain of an ongoing U.S. government shutdown. Most federal operations remain shut as no tangible signs of negotiations have emerged between the U.S. congressional leaders since President Donald Trump met them last week. Here's the report.
The Trump administration has warned that it will start mass layoffs of federal workers if the shutdown stalemate persists. As the shutdown entered its fifth day, White House National Economic Council Director Kevin Hassett said he still saw a chance that Democrats would back down. Hassett directs the White House's National Economic Council. He has pinned hopes for progress in talks during next week. Talks will center on addressing expiring Obamacare health subsidies. The Senate's Republican Majority Leader acknowledged the two sides were currently at a stalemate. US President Donald Trump said that firing of federal workers is taking place right now as he blamed the shutdown on Democratic lawmakers. Two unions representing federal employees have asked a California federal court to stop the Trump administration from conducting sweeping layoffs that could permanently eliminate jobs deemed non-consistent with President Donald Trump's priorities. The American Federation of Government Employees and the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees argued that a temporary restraining order was necessary to prevent significant harm.
It's taking place right now, and it's all because of the Democrats. The Democrats are causing the loss of a lot of jobs with their, it's a shutdown. It's their shutdown, not our shutdown, it's their shutdown.
No tangible signs of negotiations have emerged between congressional leaders since Trump met with them last week. Rank and file Senate Democrats and Republicans have held informal talks aimed at finding common ground on healthcare and other issues in hopes of reaching a deal to reopen the government. On Monday, the Senate is due to vote for a fifth time on the stopgap funding bill that has already passed the Republican-controlled House of Representatives and on a Democratic alternative. Bureau Report, DD India.
South Korea's Coast Guard on Monday caught 8 Chinese nationals who were attempting to enter the country by boat illegally. The group was intercepted after an unidentified vessel was spotted off the country's west coast late Sunday night. The small leisure boat carrying all 8 individuals was towed to a port in Taiyuan County, South Chungcheong province. The Coast Guard said that they were planning to seek arrest warrants for violating the Immigration Control Act, and the incident comes amid growing regional concerns about China's maritime activity, particularly its use of civilian vessels for strategic purposes. Scientists Mary E. Burnkow and Fred Ramsdell of the United States, along with Shimon Sakaguchi of Japan, have been awarded this year's Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine for their groundbreaking research on how the immune system is regulated. The Nobel Committee recognized the trio for their discoveries in peripheral immune tolerance, a crucial mechanism that prevents the body's immune system from attacking its own tissues. The Nobel Assembly at Sweden's Karolinska Institute stated that their work had laid the foundation for a new field of research and opened the door to innovative treatments for conditions such as cancer and autoimmune diseases. The winners will receive 11 million Swedish crowns, roughly 1.2 million US dollars, along with a gold medal to be presented by the King of Sweden. The Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine is the first of 6 Nobel categories to be announced. It will be followed by the Nobel Prize in Physics. As the monsoon retreats, it leaves behind both relief and ruin. Nepal bears the brunt, 50 dead in landslides, with the army leading rescue efforts. Darjeeling is hit too. Meanwhile, a sense of winter has arrived, and fresh snowfall has drawn tourists to Sonmarg and nearby regions in Jammu and Kashmir. Here's our report.
Rescuers in Nepal on Monday scrambled to deliver emergency aid after days of torrential rain triggered landslides and floods as the death toll rose to 50. Military and emergency personnel in Nepal continued rescue operations. Security forces have been deployed with helicopters and motorboats to assist the efforts. Nepal Army personnel evacuated villagers from areas vulnerable to floods and landslides and relocated them to safer locations. The downpours, which began on October 3, have now eased, but rescue teams are still struggling to reach several cut-off areas with roads blocked and bridges washed away. Landslides have been reported from 35 locations in the hills of Darjeeling. More than 100 houses have been destroyed in the region. Dozens of people have been killed and several still missing, as relief and restoration work is underway. Hundreds of tourists remain stranded in and around Darjeeling. Fresh snowfall started at Sonmarg. Zozila Road is open, but passengers and drivers are advised to avoid unnecessary travel, and travelers are advised to carry anti-skid chains with them to gain more grip on slipper roads. On Monday, Jammu witnessed spells of rain following predictions by the Meteorological Department of low to moderate rainfall across Jammu and Kashmir. Several parts of the Jammu division recorded showers throughout the day. Farmers were advised to suspend all agricultural activities on October 6 and 7 in view of the prevailing weather conditions. The upper reaches of the Kashmir division, including the Pir Panjal range, received fresh snowfall, bringing temperatures down in the region. Northern Indian state of Uttarakhand has witnessed rainfall in several districts, including Dehradun. The high peaks of Chamoli and Rudraprayag districts are experiencing the first snowfall of the season. Weather has suddenly changed in Chamoli after the snowfall in districts' high peaks, including Badrinath Dham and Hemkund Sahib. Heavy rains lashed the capital city of Himachal Pradesh, Shimla, on Monday, leading to a sudden drop in temperatures and eliciting mixed reactions from visiting tourists. According to the Meteorological Department, intermittent rainfall is expected to continue over the next 24 hours, with temperatures remaining below normal. The cyclonic storm Shakti is likely to move east-southeastwards over west-central and adjoining northwest Arabian Sea and weaken into a depression by the morning of 7th October. IMD has forecasted significant weather activity in eastern parts of India due to prevailing weather systems. Light to moderate rainfall and thunderstorms are expected at most places over the next 3 to 4 days. Bureau Report, DD India.
Let's take a quick look at other stories making news from around the world. Jilly Cooper, the British author of novels such as Rivals and Riders, has died at the age of 88. Her agent Curtis Brown said in a statement on Monday. Cooper found huge commercial success in the 1980s with her raunchy novels, which followed the romantic adventure of upper-class characters such as show jumper Rupert Campbell Black. The Advanced Micro Devices and OpenAI have announced a multi-year partnership to develop AI data centers that the chipmaker said would bring in tens of billions of dollars in new revenue over the next 5 years. According to a joint statement, AMD will supply the California-based startup with graphic processors that are key to the development of artificial intelligence. Still to come here on DD India NewsHour, we'll break down External Affairs Minister Jaishankar's address at the Aravali Summit in JNU on India and the world order. The Bihar Assembly elections have been announced. They'll take place in 2 phases, November 6 and November 11.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
You're watching DD India NewsHour. I'm Mark Lynn. Here's a recap of our main stories. France on the brink. Macron under fire as 14-hour cabinet of Prime Minister Lecornu collapses, sparking calls for fresh elections and his resignation. US shutdown enters the second week. Budget deadlock deepens as Trump blames Democrats. Unions fight layoff threats. UPI expands its global footprint. Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal launches digital payments in Qatar, showcasing India's fintech model. Brunkau, Ramsdell and Sakaguchi win the Nobel Prize for a breakthrough in immune system regulation. India will act in its national interest amid global shifts, said the External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar at the Aravali Summit in New Delhi. He emphasized multipolar engagement, multi-alignment and growth driven by demand, demography and data, 3 Ds. Here's the report.
Indian government's vision of a Viksit Bharat or developed India by 2047 entails a conscious shift in national aspiration from routine developmental goals to a deliberate repositioning within the global order. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar on Monday highlighted the importance of Viksit Bharat vision. The External Affairs Minister was speaking at Aravali Summit 2025, India and the World Order preparing for 2047 in New Delhi.
We have to safeguard our interests and yet continuously advance up the global hierarchy. We have to de-risk our exposures and engagements and yet take risks when necessary. We have to appreciate that interdependence is both a stabilizer and at the same time a vulnerability. And the world is all about being on the positive side of that ledger. From India's perspective, 3 driving forces of demand, of demographics and of data will propel its rise.
Jaishankar also spoke about a number of changes occurring at global level.
India must operate in a multipolar environment while itself preparing to emerge as a pole. That is why multi-alignment serves it well right now, and the goal of becoming a leading power is a natural one for the future.
So let's have a look at the key objectives of Viksit Bharat by 2047. Viksit Bharat means developed India. Viksit Bharat 2047 is the government's vision to drive the mission of making India a completely developed nation by its 100th anniversary of the independence in 2047. The strategy is on consolidating infrastructure, expanding social welfare schemes, driving economic growth, promoting sustainable development, and enhancing both ease of living and ease of doing business. It aims to take India's economy to $30 trillion. The vision is based on four pillars: Yuva, Garib, Nari, and Annadata. Its objectives are zero poverty, 100% good quality school education, access to high quality, affordable, and comprehensive health care, 100% skilled labor with meaningful employment, 70% of women in economic activities, farmers making country the food basket of the world. India's External Affairs Minister highlighted importance of neighborhood first policy.
In our own region, we have to ourselves underwrite the infrastructure for cooperation if it is to be proofed against political volatility. This is the essence of neighborhood first policy. India has to be the go-to option in any crisis for the entire subcontinent. The maritime aspects of our interests and concerns must not be underestimated.
India's envisioned transition is not simply a bid to join the ranks of the developed countries in measurable terms, but to bring a qualitatively new flavor to global governance as a responsible power. Fuzail Ahmed's report for DD India.
And Ashok Sajanhar, former senior diplomat, former ambassador of India, joins us to help us understand the EAM's words in more detail. Ambassador Sajanhar, the EAM has seen for India, India's global role. It calls for reconciling civilizational identity with the demands of sort of modern diplomacy. So to what extent is this work in progress, and to what extent is this already happening?
Thank you very much, Mark. I think considerable work has been done on this already, because you see, right from the very beginning, 11 years ago when Prime Minister Modi assumed power, I think in one of his first addresses from the ramparts of the Red Fort, he had mentioned about, self pride in what we are, in our identity. And I think there's been much considerable focus on developing, whether it's taking pride in our history, in our culture, and of course not being only engaged with the past, but using the past as inspiration to move to the future and to take both opportunities and challenges from the present, like utilizing technology, what is there. And I think India has made significant progress as far as that is concerned. All the challenges that have come our way, whether it was the COVID-19 pandemic, whether it was the Galwan attack from China, whether it is in terms of the weaponization of the supply chains that we have seen, across the whole spectrum, India has been able to deal with it effectively. More recently, the Russia-Ukraine conflict and the Israel-Hamas conflict also. India has walked a thin line, but it has preserved its own, strategic choices, and it has not been, not succumbed to any coercion or pressure that has come our way.
Ambassador Sajanhar, this summit is taking place at the JNU, which is a premier institute of our country. So to what extent, can academic institutions like JNU sort of influence real world policy?
No, absolutely. I think the academic institutions have a huge role to play. Education has a huge role to play. And I think in that context, as you said, JNU is one of our premier educational institutions, higher education institutions, and that happens to be also the alma mater of Dr. Jaishankar and incidentally also of the Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman. So, that is a very important institution. It is not only within the country, but I think even as far as global rankings are concerned, it has acquitted itself very creditably. And by inspiring them to move forward towards Viksit Bharat, dealing with all the challenges, using all the opportunities. For instance, what Dr. Jaishankar mentioned today, the 3Ds that will stand us in very good stead. It is the demography, of course. The whole world is changing into a place for a global workforce. And there, of course, India has a huge role to play because it has, it's not only the largest population, but it also has a young population which is trained, and that is why we have seen it has gone around. And of course, as far as demand, not only within our own economy, but also growing demand, and
the third is data.
Data is the third, and because India has marked the largest population, so I think data also comes to us very quickly, and India has become, our youth has become tech savvy very, very quickly. Data is made available by our government to our citizens at, I think, the most competitive rates in the world. So, data also comes in handy. And these three are going to be very important elements of our growth towards Viksit Bharat 2047.
So India's leadership of the Global South also obviously comes into focus. To what extent does it sort of gain greater urgency in the current times under the current geopolitics of shifts that are taking place in the world?
Yeah, because there is such huge turbulence that is taking place. I think, every generation thinks that, the turbulence that it is experiencing is the biggest that, has ever taken place. But I think in our case, it could very well be true because we have seen so much of change in geoeconomics. It is the weaponization of tariffs. It is, as far as market access is concerned, that has been weaponized. And as I said earlier, the supply chain have been weaponized. So we have to build resilience towards that. We have to create strategies so that we protect ourselves from that and we don't make ourselves vulnerable to that. So I think India is dealing with those challenges as far as markets are concerned. Whether it is the India-UK FTA, India-EU FTA that we are working towards India-Mercosur free trade agreement, and also reaching out to Africa, reaching out to the ASEAN countries. So I think that definitely is there, but also in terms of, better infrastructure, not only for doing business, but also for our security purposes, because that is very, very important. Indeed. And then also in terms of, this is
sure. Ambassador Sajjanad, the EM also emphasizes that there should be strategic recalibration. There are lots of challenges as we are talking about. I mean, there are also challenges of AI, for instance, that we talked about, data. Then there is the youth that can take advantage of this. What kind of do you see? I mean, this is taking place after all in an educational institution. Do you see the young scholars, let's say, play a greater role in bringing about a sort of a generational shift in policy making, because we have to think about the future?
No, absolutely. I think whatever future beckons, whatever future holds, it is our youth which has really to be able to take full advantage of that. And I think in that context, what you mentioned, data, and what EM mentioned there, as far as data is concerned, as far as technology, whether it is AI, whether it is superconductor, semiconductors, and whether it is robotics, all these new technologies, I think India is prepping itself to be in the forefront. We are going to have this AI Future Summit.
Yes.
India had participated last year earlier this year in France, and next year is going to be in India. And we are investing very heavily as far as manufacture of semiconductors is concerned. So I think across the board, we are working towards it so that, India lost out on the industrial revolution last time because India was not a free country, it was a colonized country. But today we are free and we are taking full advantage. We are determined to take full advantage of the opportunities that come our way.
We leave it there. Thank you very much, Ambassador Ashok Sajjanad. Thank you for putting that into perspective for us. Moving on to our next story then, India's Chief Election Commissioner, Gyanesh Kumar, He has announced that the Bihar Assembly elections are going to be conducted in 2 phases, November 6th and November 11th. And the counting of votes are going to take place on the counting of votes will take place on November 14. So this determines the next legislative leadership of the state of Bihar.
बिहार के चुनाव 2 फेजेस में होंगे। पहले फेज के डेट गैजेट नोटिफिकेशन 10 तारीख को आएगा, दूसरे का 13 को। लास्ट डेट ऑफ मेकिंग नॉमिनेशंस पहले फेज की 17 को होगी, दूसरे की 20 को। स्क्रूटनी 18 और 21। विड्रॉल की आखिरी तारीख 20 अक्टूबर और 23 अक्टूबर। और डेट ऑफ पोल 6 नवंबर थर्सडे और दूसरा 11 नवंबर ट्यूसडे। काउंटिंग 14 नवंबर को होगी और पूरी चुनावी प्रक्रिया 16 नवंबर तक समाप्त कर ली जाएगी।
The Accessibilities Expo 2025, the region's premier platform for assistive technologies and accessibility solutions, opened on Monday at the Dubai World Trade Center. The expo highlights the latest innovations in assistive technologies, from smart systems and advanced prosthetics to wearable devices that enhance independence and social inclusion for individuals with disabilities. This event, held under the patronage of Sheikh Ahmed bin Saeed Al Maktoum, will run until October 8. The event also brings together more than 270 exhibitors from 50 countries.
Great opportunity to be here because, first of all, we meet like-minded people who are also building products for kids with special needs and for parents who are taking care of them. Also, it's a great opportunity to speak in this conference hall and find partners with whom we can work for this kind of disabled people. And also, there are a lot of kids out here who can basically test our product and give us invaluable feedback on which we can iterate.
Still to come here on DD India NewsHour. The 93rd Air Force Day is set for October 8 at the Hindon Air Base. Full dress rehearsal today. And Indian cricketers to participate for the first time in the T20 Lanka Premier League. You're watching DD India NewsHour. I'm Mark Lin. The IAF test pilot and the first Indian astronaut to visit the International Space Station, Group Captain Subhanshu Shukla, spoke exclusively to India's public broadcaster DD India. The Group Captain shared his experiences on the Axiom space mission and also said that it was a proud moment and an honor for him to speak to Prime Minister Narendra Modi from there.
It was an extremely proud moment. You imagine yourself being on the International Space Station, you know, a marvel of human engineering which is orbiting around the Earth, traveling at around 27,000 kilometers per hour, going around the Earth several times. And you have your flag in your background, you know, on your back, and you're speaking to your country's leader. And I think there is nothing more proud to feel. I think it was an extremely proud moment for me, and the realization of what is happening, it happened for me in that moment, that what an absolute honor it was for me to be able to get to do this, what a privilege, and at the same time the sense of responsibility of what I do with this now that I have this. So indeed, both the things, it was at the same time for me.
The 93rd Air Force Day will be celebrated at Hindon Air Force Base on October 8th. A full dress rehearsal took place at the Air Force Station on Monday. Watch this report from the Hindon Air Force Station.
weapons in hand and sharp movements. These air warriors are diligently preparing for Air Force Day on 8th of October. Due to inclement weather, the full dress rehearsal was held in the hangar itself. On this occasion, 97 air warriors will be honored, including 2 posthumously. 3 units will also be rewarded. The highlight of the ceremony will be Operation Sindoor. A static display of fighter aircraft will also be held on this occasion, including the MiG-21, Sukhois and Rafales. Vishal Baristow's report, DD India.
You're watching DD India NewsHour. Let's get you the sports news. The World Championship medalists Lakshay Sen and Kidambi Srikanth will spearhead India's campaign at the Arctic Open badminton tournament, which begins in Finland on Tuesday. Sen reached his first final of the 2025 season at the Hong Kong Open last month, but he failed to carry that momentum into the China Masters. Joining Sen in the men's singles draw are 5 other Indian players, including Kidambi Srikanth, who rediscovered some form with a semi-final appearance at the Al Ain Masters last week. The Asian Games men's doubles champions Satvik Sairaj, Ranki Reddy and Chirag Shetty have withdrawn from the tournament. In the women's singles, the rising stars Tanya Hemant and Anmol Krab, they are going to be leading India's charge in the absence of the 2-time Olympic medalist PV Sindhu. Tanishka Crasto will pair with Dhruv Kapila to headline India's mixed doubles campaign. India's para high jumper Nishad Kumar clinched the gold medal at the World Para Athletics Championships in New Delhi. Speaking exclusively to Narayan Singh, Nishad praised the government's efforts in providing world-class infrastructure. Let's listen.
Indian para-athlete team won a record number of medals at the 12th edition of the World Para-Athletic Championship in Delhi. And right now I am joined by the gold medalist Nishad Kumar, who won gold medal in the high jump. Nishad, a fantastic performance by our Indian athletes here. How you look overall performance of the Indian athletes winning a record number of medals at the Jalen Stadium in New Delhi?
Yeah, thank you so much first of all, and this is going for first time in India World Championship, and I am very happy for this hospitality and facilities, and yeah, everyone going is very well, like me and everyone going winning medal, new athletes, and I am happy for new athletes. Yep.
Yeah, this time around you changed the color of your medal. In the last 2 editions of the World Para-Athletics Games, you won silver, but this time around gold. So what's the reason behind that you changed the color of the medal this time around?
I changed my mentality, and I changed my diet, I changed my routine, and I look forward last 7 to 8 years, gold medal. So my team is working very hard with me, and my coach and my still OGQ team, everyone. I am very happy, and thank you so much for everyone support me, and yeah, this is for special matter for me, first in world stage gold medal.
So was there any pressure of having the world champion and the Paralympic champion in the category? So how, if there was a pressure, how you cope with that?
No, I don't have pressure because I already prepared my mind, because I am looking for only my technique and how can I going to more height.
So finally, talk about the overall support by the government, by the Sports Authority of India. We are winning record number of medals at every podium at the championship. Overall, our PM is supporting, our government is supporting. How you look the support?
The sport is very good, and we looking like new mondo track and other facilities. And now we going to next year we have Asian Games. So government now starting work for Asian athletes who will win the medal and change some policies. This is good things.
Definitely the way things are happening, infrastructure is strong and the world-class mondo track is behind me. It is only at the few venues in the world, and this shows that our athletes are getting the best facilities, and that's why they are winning medal at the world podium. With camera person Naveen, Narayan Singh, DD India, Delhi.
Well, Indian cricketers are all set to participate for the first time in the T20 Lanka Premier League beginning on the 1st of December. The 6th edition of this tournament will run from the 1st to the 23rd of December, featuring 20 league stage games and 4 knockout fixtures. All 5 franchise teams compete against each other twice during the league phase. The top 4 teams will advance to the playoffs. The opening playoff, called the Qualifier 1, will be played between the top 2 sides, and the winner will earn a berth for the final. Now, the teams placed 3rd and 4th will then compete in the eliminator, and the victor of that clash will take on the loser of Qualifier 1, which will decide the second finalist. Well, before we end this show of DD India NewsHour, we leave you with dazzling visuals of the super moon, which is the first and the largest full moon so far this year to light up the night sky. The full moon is classified as a super moon when it reaches its nearest point to the Earth in its orbit. Take a look, namaskar, and goodbye.